Welcome back, Spuzz, to another episode of Minecraft Sky Factory 4. I haven't done a whole lot since the last episode. I did make sure that all my chests so far are organized, and we'll make sure that it'll be a lot easier to extract materials later. So for example, if I wanted to say make a bunch of dirt, I can just grab 5 stacks of resin, 4 stacks of acorns, and make a whole stack of dirt blocks just from doing absolutely nothing. Because this is how OP the bonsai pots are going to be. And this is just a start. I'm going to have a whole army that's going on pretty soon. Today's main goal is to make a mega smelter. In the meantime, I made some grout and a whole stack of iron amber, and before, if you were to use a furnace, then it would be 1 iron ingot. But with grout, we can make something called seared bricks. And this is going to make us something really massive, but it's going to be a huge part of our build. But we're going to need a lot of sand and a lot of gravel in order for this to happen. How this works is that I got to put the grout into the furnace, which will turn it into seared bricks. And then with the seared bricks, I can turn those into seared blocks. And that's what I'm going to use for the exterior and the whole mega smeltery. So I'm going to go ahead and get all this much down, and I'll meet you guys whenever it's time to make the smelter. And then with the 4 seared bricks, I can put that into a table, and that gives me a single seared brick block. Now this, I'm going to need a whole lot of these. So I'm going to need maybe like a stack or so to get a good functional furnace going. So this may take a while. So while I'm crafting all the items here, I'm going to explain a little bit about how this smeltery works. So if you put a single iron amber into a furnace, you'll get 1 ingot. But if you put it into the smeltery, then you get 2 because it doubles your ores that you get. Now, there are a lot of things I'm going to need for this. A few of this are going to be the controller, a basin, a casting table, a faucet, a seared drain, and finally a window tank. All this is going to all make sense in a little bit. The first design I'm going to start off with is just simple 3x3. This is the basic design. You can go over any size that you want, but given that we're pretty early on, we're going to go ahead and just stick to where this is at right now. So you start off with a 3x3 grid, and then go ahead and surround the outer edge of it, and then until it's entirely encased with the seared bricks. You can also use the parts of the smeltery, like the controller or the tank or the drain, as part of the wall. So in this case, I went ahead and put the controller right here, so this way I can actually use the smeltery. And then next we're going to put down the drain, and then put down the faucet, and then that's going to lead down into the basin. It's a whole process. And then next we're going to go ahead and put more seared bricks, and then replace this with the window tank. But I don't have that quite yet, so let's go ahead and craft that. And then with a little bit of glass and a little bit more of the seared bricks, I went ahead and made the tank. This is what's going to hold the lava for us in order to use the smeltery, as this is the main power source that we're going to use for a long time. Now this can hold up to 4 buckets, which once again, if we just put cobblestone in a cauldron with a heated source underneath it, we can get infinite lava in that case. So this is a great way to get your ores early on, given that you already have basic stuff, because you can put amber in this, you can put actual ores in the future, and this will act as a doubler for you. And for each slot that is empty in the drain, which in this case we have a 3x3 that makes 9 slots, that you can fit up to 9 items or 9 blocks in the smeltery. So right now we have a good amount of space. We'll let us do a thing. It does take time for it to smelt down, like if a normal furnace does, but this is going to be a great way for us to double our ores and get a lot more production going, because these hoppers take a lot of iron out of us. So while these 9 would have become 1 single block, now that they're all in the smeltery and they're all finished, now I get a grand total of 2 blocks, which I can then pour into the basin to get 2 blocks of iron for the price of 1. So it just gets you a whole net positive of just doing absolutely no work except for building this thing in the first place, which is going to be essential for making in the future saplings and a ton of resources. And as you build upwards, this is going to increase the capacity of your tank, which means that now I can fill up to 18 now that I've doubled it, and it can store up to 144 ingots, which in that case is going to store up a lot more, which I can go ahead and get things done even faster into bigger quantities, make more hoppers. With those hoppers, I make more bonsai pots. Those will make resources, more iron. It's a whole other loop there. So this is going to be one of the greatest things we're going to be making for a long time. So with this, I want to get us at least 3 high for this episode. But now it is time for us to get back into the progression for our trees. So next thing I'm going to need is tin amber, which is pretty easy. It's flint, bone resin, gravel, and some clay. Super simple. So I have all the things I need right here. If I go ahead and make the amber now, and after a little bit, it's going to turn into the molten tin, which I'm then going to put that onto a casting table over a birch sapling, which will then make me a tin sapling. And because I have 2 tin ingots in the smeltery now, this means that I can make 2 of these saplings because I only need 1 ingot per sapling. So now I can get a double chest with 2 hoppers on them, making me more resources. And every sapling that I make from here on out will be used for something in the future, whether it be progression towards this or for the future factories. So our next goal right now is to make ironwood, and which is also why I needed the tin in the first place. And the first ingredient is going to be an acacia sapling, which requires me to put an apple sapling in water, but I don't have the apple saplings. I can only get those by crushing apples in a crushing tub, and that gives me apple seeds, which then I can plant to get the saplings. But in order to get apple saplings, I need to then get an oak sapling, which is very easy. Just put dirt and water, and that will give me an oak sapling, which I can then plant into a pot in order to get apples, and then crush those apples into apple seeds, and then plant the seeds into a sapling, and then put the sapling in water, which then gives me an acacia sapling, which I can then put that into the cast table on the smeltery, and then this would turn it into an ironwood sapling. And the reason why this is so good is because rather than have to use all these other types of resin, I can now just use the own ironwood supply. So I can use resin and acorns from this sapling only, and this gives me more iron amber. So in just maybe 20-30 seconds, I can get myself 2 free iron ingots over time. So this is going to be our best source of getting iron. I want this farm huge by next episode. But this is how we're going to get iron easier, and this just makes things a lot easier for me. Because the whole point of the Sky Factory is to make things easier underneath the progression, and there's a whole lot more to do. So our next thing we're going to work on now is lapis sapling, and then work to redstone, gold, all the way up to our final sapling for this episode. But next we're going to need a lapis sapling, which requires us to get a dark oak sapling, which is simple. It's just putting coal into water. And then now we're going to add everything together. And now this is the first recipe where this is a little bit unique. Because with the sapling here, what we're really looking for is really just the acorns. Because the acorns can be used to craft a lapis block, which you don't need the resin for at this time. It's just the acorns, which makes it a little more unique. The resin's still helpful for other recipes, but for the most part, you just want the acorns. So I'm going to add this to my collection, and then we're going to work on the next sapling. My next sapling was going to be the redstone sapling, which is easy to craft. It just required me to get a rose, which is easy if you use bone meal on grass, which then gave me a rose. I then dyed the water in the cauldron, and then I finally made the redstone sapling. And this will be the main way I can power my factory in the future. The next sapling is going to be the lead sapling, which just requires me to put lapis into the cauldron this time, with a bunch of sand, petrified, and iron resin. I go ahead and make the amber and then toss that into the smeltery, and then I make 2 more dark oak saplings to then make the 2 lead saplings, and that's 1 more sapling off our checklist. Followed by the gold sapling, which once again is made by the gold amber, put that in the smelter, and then turn that into the gold sapling. And then next is going to be the silver sapling, which requires me to make a whole other sapling just to get this one. So what I need here is something called iron berries, and I can only get that from an ironwood sapling. And eventually, the ironwood sapling will drop me the iron berries that I'm going to need. But I'm going to need to get the sapling first, which requires me to grow beetroot, which I don't quite have yet, which is easy. If you just use the bone meal on grass, you'll eventually get the seeds that you need. But let's go ahead and get the iron berries. And now with the iron berries collected, I can go ahead and make the silver amber and then toss that into the ultimate smeltery. And I can go ahead and make the silver sapling. But I first need to get a mineral sapling, which is easy. It's just putting lapis sapling into water, and that gets me the sapling I'm going to need. But keep in mind that if you combine too many elements in the smeltery, there's a chance that they'll combine. So for example, the silver and the gold turn into electrum, which is not what I wanted. I still have the silver, which is enough to get 1 sapling, but keep that in mind if you're doing like a bigger amount of materials. And all of this work for the past 2 episodes until now is all up to this one moment to get the diamond sapling, which requires me to get the silver, to get the lapis, to get the gold, and then the rest of the sapling. And this will now give us our infinite source of diamonds. And with everything combined, I can go ahead and make the sapling and then add it to my collection of farms. And this is just the beginning. We're like maybe like halfway through all this. Next episode, we're gonna focus a little more on making the final sapling, the osmium sapling, which takes a long time to craft and requires us to even go to the nether. So if you want to see that, hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for the next episode of Sky Factory 4. It's gonna be a doozy.